Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Good Guys Sports. Today, we're going to be looking at some of the NFL matchups, the conference championships to be more specific. And as you can tell, it's a bit of a Philly special this weekend. So we will get to that matchup, don't you worry. But first, we're going to start with a college football championship recap. That's right, we saw a game this previous Monday for the national championship between two teams from the Midwest being Ohio State and Notre Dame. The game was taking place in Atlanta, and the game ended up finishing in Ohio State's favor, 34 to 23, as many people would have expected. Uh, Ohio State jumped out to a pretty sizable lead to start this game, and Ohio State, or Notre Dame, excuse me, had to claw their way back into it to end up finishing only an 11-point margin. Still, Ohio State obviously covering the spread there, but the playoffs, I think, as a whole, finished perhaps the way that people would have expected, given the progression that Ohio State had throughout this playoffs. Obviously, coming up with big victories against the likes of Oregon and Texas along the way. So um, perhaps not a surprising end result to this specific matchup, but at the same time, before the playoffs started, Ohio State obviously winning the championship was not something a lot of people had on their bingo card, given the fact that there were an eight seed in this CFP ranking system, given some of their struggles in the regular season. So all in all, the first ever edition of a 12-team college football playoff season has concluded with Ohio State as the champion. Jackson, what are your initial reactions to this game? It seems like Ohio State might not have been the best team in the regular season, but throughout the playoffs, you couldn't really argue with their results, right?
No, not at all. And if you go back to if you go back to the Michigan game where they where they lost in a 14 to 13 final score, and it was not even a high scoring affair in that in that matchup in that game. That since then everybody thought that Ohio that Ryan Day was going to be out as head coach and just really thought that he was going to be fired and just really and really the media all over him and just really and just really and just really just calling out his job. But well, since then, since then that the team has blocked out the noise and went back to the drawing board and had some players only meeting and just really a bunch of great guys that just regrouped and just got back into things and just somehow and started a college football playoff when they went back to this college football playoff run. They just turned this thing around and just uh and just really went unbeaten for those wins against Texas and Tennessee and Texas in the first few rounds and then and then since that loss to Michigan for the school up north for those people up in Columbus call them that since the loss to Michigan they have found their momentum and just really just found ways to win this despite that loss in the game against Michigan and obviously when I obviously one of the biggest players of the game was Jack Scheuer, who did the scoop and score and just really the turnover from
Love a good scoop and score.
where yeah right where Texas in that game just was was in the red zone. Although the Ohio State defense made the big play and Jack Scheuer just scooped it up and took it all the way to the end zone and sealed the game. That's really what led Ohio State um back in this game is plays like that. So really, if you look at it, Ohio State just really didn't think anyone was going to really predict or have them as crowned as national champions, but but they did, and they deserve it, and they were in the national championship for a reason, just because of this group of guys in this locker room that Ryan Day has, and I was so struck with Jack Sawyer, who made some big plays in that Texas game, but I also but I was also very struck by this piece that I was watching on College Game Day with how a great Christian guy and man he was, with the family that he has, with his other with his other name also named Jack Sawyer, who had cancer but unfortunately died. But yeah, I was so struck with this program and Will Howard and Ryan Jenkins and then Jamar Smith and then Jack Sawyer and then Will Howard are just. I really like this Ohio State team because of how great those leaders are off the field when they're great Christians, and that's one reason why I think getting a lot of credit to Ohio State for that reason. So now 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 in the national championship game, when I look at it in the game from the off-field perspective to on-field, Notre Dame, we thought this game was going to be a blowout, except Notre Dame, what it looked like when I was watching it on the couch, that they cut the lead in halves, in which they scored 2-point conversions. They scored two of them in the second half, and then they got in field goal range and made the field goal, except he missed it. It was like wide to the right, I think, by one of those and had it, and then the next thing you realize that it was not going to be like a cakewalk or just a blowout kind of game. I just knew that Notre Dame was still in this game, in this fight, and they just really didn't give up. It was just that big third down and play that really closed out the deal for the Buckeyes, and that's really how it all went down. Yeah, what a great what a great win that was for Ryan Day. It is their ninth or eighth overall title in school history. It'll be their it'll be their eighth national championship in school history for this Buckeyes team, which of course they also went on to win the national championship game in 2014 season when the college football playoff also first started, and yeah, 10 years later they're still celebrating national championship. And and then one other thing I'd like to add is the Big Ten, it has won consecutive national championships since like the 1950s or something. So that's really what struck me. Michigan did it last year, and this year it was Ohio State. So to me, it was just a down year for the SEC, but I would expect them to bounce back next year and get back in this thing. I wouldn't. So yeah, I do think the SEC will be back next year, but this year it was just a down year for the Southeastern Conference. But I was expecting to bounce back next year, but but give a lot of credit to Ohio State because they really deserved it, and I think that they really deserved and given a lot of credit for what they have accomplished so far in this 12-team playoff, which really might have played a factor in it, but at the end of the day, it's you got to live by the results, and no matter how the game's results finish, it was just one of those years, and I think if the college football playoff were to expand to 14 or 30, that would even prevent more chaos. But at the end of the day, the Buckeyes win. They won the 2025 national championship in Atlanta. They won it all. Jack Sawyer was named the most valuable player, a great guy, and at the end of the day, Ohio State wins the national championship game, and that's really all I got to say about
Yeah,
that.
no, it was definitely a good spectacle to end what was an interesting playoff format for sure. I'll jump to David. Good to have you on the show, by the way. I wanted to maybe get your overall high level thoughts on maybe this 12-team playoff in general, and whether or not you feel like maybe we ended up getting the right team winning the national championship. I know it might be a bit of an odd thing to say, but obviously we had an 8 seed playing a 7 seed in the championship, and you can't really argue with Ohio State winning it given sort of the football they played in this playoff. But what were your thoughts on kind of the overall 12-team playoff and the championship game in specific as well?
Well, I think the big winner in this 12-team playoff was Dr. Pepper. I thought Dr. Pepper did a great job with their ads and promoting the playoff with cleverness, imagination, and great brand building. They continue to own college sports, specifically college football. So hats off to Dr. Pepper. Um, I like the 12-team playoff. It could go to 16. It wouldn't bother me, but where we are today, I thought it worked well. The seeding is kind of clumsy, right? I think we'd all agree that Ohio State wasn't really what were they, a 6 or 8 seed? They should have been a two
Eight,
or
yeah.
three seed.
Yep.
Yeah, you got Boise State and too low. The seeding was weird based
It was
on the
Arizona State and
conference.
Boise State are both top four,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
that they need to clean that up for sure. I think everybody agrees there, except for the conferences, and they control things. So, but overall, enjoyable. Best team won. Some good games, some dud games, as you would expect. Mostly good games. It's good to see Notre Dame kind of claw back and not get embarrassed. They needed to play a perfect game, obviously, to win that. I think most people understood that. They didn't. Ohio State probably needed to play a bad game, and they needed to play a great game. The odds of that happening are slim. So I enjoyed it. They slotted the games in nicely between the NFL and college basketball early games that were interesting. So it uh, it kind of carried through the holiday schedule nicely for people. So I think all in all, a thumbs up.
Yeah, for sure. I think we definitely had some entertaining games. Obviously, the traditional bowls being in the playoff format, and some really interesting matchups, some upsets as well. A lot of the higher seeds that we would expect, the likes of Oregon and Georgia, obviously falling short. But yeah, you can't really argue with Ohio State being crowned champion at the end. Blake Lineberger, were you pretty impressed with the kind of the playoff scenario that Ohio State put together? Obviously, Notre Dame themselves had a couple of good victories in the playoffs, but you can't really argue with the Buckeyes being there at the end, right?
Yeah, I think what David said was spot on. That's what I said the whole time. I said, oh, Notre Dame would have had to have played a perfect game. And also, not only that, I think it would have taken a few mistakes by Ohio State as well. But bottom line, Notre Dame had to play a perfect game. I also agree with the Dr. Pepper, man. They to me, whoever their ad campaign manager is blowing it out of the water. I mean, it just gets better and better with their ad campaign. It's fantastic. So it was cool to see Notre Dame. We had a few games like that recently where they go up by two touchdowns, and I said, "Game's over." I'm walking away, and as I'm walking away, the team strikes back quick, and then they're about to strike back quick again, and the doink crushed them when they doinked it. If they would have gotten that and then they score, the game looks completely different. So yeah, I agree with David. They would have had to play a perfect game, but I think we all kind of saw that coming. And I'll tell you what, this is going to sound crazy. It's going to be a hot take. If I'm Ryan Day, and I said this on the show last week about Ohio State and how they wanted to get rid of, the fans were calling for Ryan Day's head. Fire the man. If I'm Ryan Day, I know he's under a contract. I take all the money. I take the highest bidder out there. And I say, you guys wanted to get rid of me. I am out of here. I'm taking the natty with me. I'm taking the paycheck, and I'm going to coach another team that will let me win or lose 2 games and still not call for me to get fired. And that's a hot take. That's controversial, but there we go.
No, I mean it's a good point though. He certainly has the leverage now, and you're right to say that he was under an immense amount of pressure. I suppose at a program like Ohio State, there really is no scenario where the coach is not probably feeling the pressure, especially given the fact that they lost to Michigan in the regular season, given the fact that Michigan was not really up to much this year themselves. So Ryan Day certainly, a bit of a 0 to 100 in terms of his stock pre-playoffs and post-playoffs. So
Gosh, you're right.
he
You're right.
certainly
It
got the hot
doesn't
hand. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't matter how many natties you win. If you lose to Michigan year in and year out, you're in trouble at Ohio State. You
Yeah.
cannot lose that game year
Yep.
in, year out, which he has.
Yep.
No, it's funny. I
Gosh.
think if you ask a lot of Ohio State fans and they say like, would you have rather beat Michigan or would you rather like made the playoffs? Like I'm
Don't
sure a
say it,
lot
Blake.
I'm sure a lot of them would have said make the playoffs, but you would have gotten a lot of people that would have said I'd rather beat Michigan, especially given the fact that I don't know the exact stat, but they haven't beaten Michigan in a couple of years because obviously Harbaugh was there and they're reigning national champions. They were good the
Is it
past couple of
four
years.
in a row, Jack?
I think so,
Jackson,
right,
is it
Yes.
Jack?
4 in a row they lost?
Yeah. Yes. It would be their fourth consecutive year of losing to the school up north known as Michigan. And yes,
Which means Ryan Day hasn't beat Michigan yet,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, so maybe if he loses again
correct.
next year, they'll fire him, right? After coming off a championship. So no, yeah, no, it's a good point though, and obviously they benefited as well as Notre Dame with having bringing in an experienced grad transfer quarterback in the form of Will Howard, who really played clean ball. You wouldn't say he was the reason that Ohio State probably won the game, but he didn't make any mistakes and he played a clean game. Um, so credit to him. But obviously, they got so much talent on that Ohio State team with Jeremiah Smith and Judkins as well. So some really talented players that we'll probably be talking about again in a few months come NFL draft time. But quick word for Notre Dame, Jack. Obviously, they fell a bit short in this game, but overall, you have to say, given the rocky start and that loss to Northern Illinois early in the year, Marcus Freeman has to be pretty happy with the season overall, no?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, you got to give a lot of credit to how Riley Leonard just really played so well by making it this far as a football team this season. I mean, yes, he took a lot of hits and got injured in that national championship game, but at the end of the day, you got to realize that you beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, you beat Penn State, you made this far. If you're an Irish fan, I know it's not the result that you were looking for, but you got to be very proud and really how you made this far, even though even though Marcus Freeman of this culture and building for this program has even has even lived for those fans up in South Bend, which I know, which I know Ohio State just owns them in the last few meetings. But like I said, I mean, look when I look back on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish season, which their losses against Northern Illinois and Ohio State this year. I mean, looking back this season, yes, they had a great season, but at the end of the day, I'm sure there's always I I know it's going to sting them and just really going to really just be heartbreaking for those fans up there. But you got to realize there's always next year, and there's definitely lots to look for, lots to be excited about and looking forward to for next year. And I think that, and I do believe Marcus Freeman and Riley Leonard, which of course who's a former quarterback of ours at Duke University, by the way, and of course Riley Leonard, a great Christian man like the other quarterbacks are in this league. So you gotta tip your hat and give a lot of credit to him. And I'm sure that Notre Dame will bounce back next season, and I'm sure Marcus Freeman and the Fighting Irish program have a brighter future ahead.
Yeah,
So
no, for sure. Yeah.
lots to be look forward to for this Fighting Irish program.
Certainly, certainly. And I think going forward, maybe the verdict, I know David mentioned earlier about the 12-team playoff. I guess, giving my opinion on the 12-team playoff, I think overall it did end up, we did end up with the team that was most deserving of winning the championship. Obviously, it seems like an obvious thing to say, but sometimes, these things work out weirdly in terms of matchup, etc. I do think eventually they'll end up dropping the um, top four seed conference winner requirement and kind of just seed it based off of a blanket 1 to 12, or if they expand to 16, a 1 to 16 type thing, and keep the bowl games here and there. But yeah, no, I think ultimately it was a success, the 12 expanded playoff format, and obviously there's more games, more interest, more viewers, more money for the likes of ESPN. So it's definitely in their favor to keep it going and even expand it going forward. So yeah, I think overall 12 team playoff, I would say it was a successful um, venture for the CFP committee, and I think we'll see definitely some action with that going forward, and maybe as we move more towards just these two mega conferences with the SEC and the Big Ten, we'll probably end up seeing some of that formatting change and stuff like that. But I think from my perspective, it ended up being a a fun format where we got some good matchups overall. So Jackson, quickly, do you have any thoughts on the just the 12 team playoff format and any changes, positive, negatives you want to see next year for college football?
Mm, so the ways from what sources that I'm hearing is the 2026 season is most likely to be projected from 12 to 14 teams, if not more. So I say I would keep so I would just keep my eye on that, and I think 12 is gonna be I think 12 is gonna be just sticking still stick in place for next season, but 2 years from now, in the start of the 2026 season, I would expect some changes for the format and for from to 14 teams or even 16 to make things even more interesting and possibly even more excitement for the sport that we for one of the best by one of the best sports for fans who love and very passionate about. So if you're a college football fan, you gotta wait. Yeah, you gotta wait patiently. But if you're a college football fan, you gotta be very excited about this new 16 or 18 playoff format that could even be that could even be more excited. But yeah, 2026 season. Look for um look for more for more added teams in the college football playoff, which in my mind will definitely look like a NCAA tournament basketball tournament field. So it would just look like that. So 2026, even though I will say at the end of the day that there are some people and sports analysts and people sports people out there are just against it or or really in favor of it. Well, I'm one of those people that's really in favor of it. But I mean, of course, not everyone's a fan of it. But for me, I'm in favor of it because I want to see more, I want to see more chaos. I want to see more upsets. I want to see more excitement. I want to see more big plays. So I think really the sport of college football should be heading in the right direction. And I think that's what we're going to be getting 2 years from now.
Jackson wants more. Give him more football. Give
That's
him
what I'm
more
here for.
chaos.
That's what I'm here
I
for.
love it.
That's what
I
I'm here
love it.
for. That's what I'm here for, Dad. I want to see more of that. And I think the sport of college football needs that in the future.
And you're going to get more.
No, for sure. As long as
I got my wish.
there's as long, as long as there's games to be had and TV networks to run it and Dr. Pepper ads to be shown, there's going to be plenty of college football going forward. So certainly no shortage of that. Um, yeah, so we'll see. It'll be interesting to see as well, kind of how the conferences end up getting realigned over the next couple of years and how the playoff format changes to accommodate that. But it's pretty clear that even if you look at the playoff national championship odds from we'll get there, from next year that it's heavily favoring the SEC and the Big Ten teams. So we'll probably just get a scenario where we just have a you know 8, 10 teams SEC Big Ten that are fighting it out for the championship. But yeah, overall, I would say a very intriguing college football season, and I think from Good Guy Sports, we're all very much so looking forward to the progression and a fresh college season next year. So,
Well, I'll tell
uh,
you what, the number 8 and 9 playing in the or 7 and 8 playing in the Natty definitely made the committee, whoever decided and agreed to expand the playoffs, it made them look good when two high seeds like that. Because I mean, what a year ago they neither one of those teams would have made it in a four-team playoff, right?
no, for sure, and
Maybe, maybe.
I think as well. Um, that comes down to sort of the rules they set on themselves as well for rewarding conference champions. And I guess my biggest request to the committee is to, if we're going to be rewarding a team, not to say that a team that won the ACC or the Mountain West or the Big 12 shouldn't be in the playoffs, but I think giving them an automatic bye and a top four seed is a bit ridiculous in my opinion, given the current
Correct.
realignment that's going on in college. So I would expect that I've seen reports about they're going to be changing the requirements on like how they're able to change the rules for. So eventually they won't need the other conferences to approve it. So eventually it is going to just be like I think a 1 through 12, and they're not really going to have to include. I think they'll probably have to include ACC champion or Big 12 champion, but they won't have to give them an automatic 4 seed, which to be fair, I think was kind of ridiculous to be honest, because I don't think anybody really thought Boise State or Arizona State was a worthy national champion. No offense to those programs, they've got good players, but yeah, overall it's a bit of a mismatch. So definitely work to do from the committee, but overall I think the expanded playoffs is a good thing for the sport and here to stay. So that is the Good Guy Sports verdict. All right. I think we've talked enough college football. Obviously, as you can see, we are here to talk a little bit of NFL playoffs. And unless you're living under a rock, we have the NFC Championship game and the AFC Championship game this Sunday. And just to give a quick recap of how we got here, let's start with the NFC with the Washington Commanders. That's right, Washington Commanders. That was not a mistake. Are traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Philadelphia Eagles in an NFC East matchup for the NFC title. Now, if you remember last week, we gave some predictions on this show, some good, some not so good. A lot of people on this show were not predicting Washington to put up much of a fight in Detroit. And obviously, the opposite happened where Washington couldn't stop scoring in that first half. Granted, Detroit has had their defensive issues. They've got guys gone, but you can't take anything away from Jaden Daniels in this Commanders offense, right? So they put on an absolute offensive clinic up there at Ford Field, and they find themselves taking on the Eagles, who themselves had to slug it out against the Rams in what was a pretty poor snowy conditions out there in Philadelphia. Obviously, that ended up favoring the Eagles, running the ball with the likes of Saquon Barkley and the Rams sort of feeling their age. Matthew Stafford not really. He didn't bring his snow tires to Philadelphia, so he was struggling a little bit in that matchup for sure. So the Eagles ended up getting the job done. But I want to just first start with that game last week. And Jackson, I mean, I don't think many of us would have thought, apart from Uncle Mike and maybe a few others, wink, wink, that the Commanders were gonna put up a fight in Detroit, let alone win that game. So you must have been pretty surprised watching that game happen last weekend, right?
Yeah, I was, and I was stunned and shocked by how the Lions just really what cost them is too many turnovers, and really that was really the key of this game is that yeah, they scored touchdowns, Jared, but at the same time, Jared Goff just had too many turnovers and interceptions, and that's what really cost the game. And really, and I was watching the press conference from Dan Campbell, and he just looked so frustrated. There was a bunch of anger and just really just and really and really some must and really there's going to be much worse news for Lions fan, even though they still keep Dan Campbell and Jared Goff will still be part of the team, but they are going to be losing. There's a possibility they're going to be losing their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator, which I don't know if you heard, but their offensive coordinator has accepted the Chicago Bears job to reunite with Caleb Williams. So that's the latest I have for you for the latest up in the NFC North. Let's face it, without their offensive coordinator Ben Johnson and and really they're and really they're and really the Lions and in fact the Lions defensive coordinator defensive coordinator coordinator
Glenn?
yeah, Aaron Glenn. He has interviewed jobs with the Jets, the Jaguars, and
I think it looks like he's going to be taking over the Jets. It looks like, yeah, that's
yeah. So
all but confirmed at this
the
point.
way
Yeah.
sources that I'm hearing is either the Jets, the Jaguars, or the Saints. So
I think it'll be the Jets. It looks like it's
you
going to be the
probably, you
Jets.
probably yeah. Well, right, because who knows if Aaron Rodgers is still going to be is really going to if they're going to play or not, even though he's getting old. But what can you expect? He's still playing at a great high level. So what's there not to like? But anyway, back to the Lions game. So really, what really, I mean, the Lions just played their best ball. It was just that it just wasn't their night, and I think that the Lions just didn't really played their best ball as you would expect. I mean, look, they're the number one seed for a reason, but yet they got upset, and 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 really the Commanders just really to me showed up and showed no quit. And really, when I pop up the film and highlights of Jaden Daniels, he is making things too easy, and that's really why the Commanders are in this position. So really, Terry McCullen and don't forget that the Commanders do have some veteran roster players on their team in the names of Bobby Wagner, a former Seahawks player as we're Seahawks fans, and then Zach Ertz, who also Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz, who are players on this roster who have Super Bowl experience, having won Super Bowl titles with the Eagles and Seahawks, and of course Dan Quinn too, who also won a title with the Seahawks with Bobby Wagner. So they do have Super Bowl experience before. Now you're but yeah, tough one for the Lions, but it's just going to be a long offseason for them to adjust by losing one of their top coaches on their coaching staff for their defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator, because without them, it's just going to be a long offseason for the Lions fans, because right up there you got the Packers, the Vikings, and maybe the Bears. They're heading seemingly heading in the right direction, because what Ben Johnson is doing in Chicago is just only getting started. And then the Commanders, and then back to the Commanders for a second. Think about where they were. The Commanders. Think about for a second for where they were last season. They had 4 wins, but then all of a sudden they missed the play because they missed the playoffs in the last few seasons. They won 4 games last season, but you fast forward to this season, they have won 13-10 they have won 13 games, and they 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 have won they have won 12 games overall compared to last season, which is a really a quick turnaround. And really they all did that with a clean house with Adam Peters and they all did that with really they all did that with Josh Harris and Adam Peters, with really doing a clean house, with Dan Snyder no longer the team. And you really think about it, of how the Commanders make it this far. I don't see them advancing to the Super Bowl, but I do have them covering, so that's just how I'm going to leave it like that. So, but I, but I, but I, but you think about it. The last time the Commanders made it to the Super Bowl was the '91 season. My parents got married, but you think about it. Well, you think about it. The '92 season, where it was the Commanders and the Bills were in that Super Bowl. But I'm not getting ahead of myself. But I do think this week. But I do think this week it's going to be a tough game for the Eagles. It's heading into this one, because you're going to South Philly. It's going to be a tough environment. Um, and I really hope that Uncle Mike is listening, which I know he is. Which I know he is out there somewhere. During his Colorado ski trip, if he's out there listening, which I know he is, that you're going to have to deal with Saquon Barkley, who's by far on quest to chasing this 200 yards by surpassing Eric Dickerson records, if you would have believed it. Yeah, I think for me, I think to me, the Commanders will make it a close game like they always do in the last few meetings. Last one at FedEx Field of Northwest Stadium, where it was a hard fought back and forth lead chaining game. And
they're not fed up right now.
Really, in that game, and Jalen Hurts was injured in that game, and so he is questionable entering this game, and so is Zach Ertz and Bobby Wagner, which Commanders on defense would be out for the starters, which would be huge for the Eagles because without one of the starters for the Commanders, that should be an advantage for the Philadelphia Eagles, and that to me, the Eagles would win this game, but it will be a hard fought, close game. So
Yeah, for sure. Jackson,
and
I want to get
right,
a different perspective here. We've talked about
right,
the Commanders. I want to go to
right.
our Eagles correspondent, David,
Right,
and
right,
Yeah.
right. And before you do, just to recap before Dad jumps in here, that I think the Eagles win this game similarly for what the Rams did last week, and of course against the Packers, where it will be a very close game. I want to say the Eagles win. Let's say 27-24, final score.
okay.
Eagles go to the Super Bowl.
Okay, so that's an official
Yeah.
prediction from Jack. He's got the Eagles to
Yeah.
win, the Commanders to cover. David, I'll jump to you. You're
Yeah.
obviously got the Eagles
Well,
perspective there. What are
yeah,
your
I
feeling about this one?
do. Blake, I'm up here in Philadelphia right now, okay? And in fact, I just got back from Acme. Actually, Acme, and I went down the street to Wawa. I picked up my tasty cakes, okay? Got some Yailing, of course.
This
You
is
were
A couple
at
crazy,
days away from
Lamar.
the game.
were you at
This is
Geno's?
great.
Geno's
And
earlier as well, right?
I hit Geno's on Friday,
Okay.
okay? Uh, and I bumped into Jalen Hurts at the Wawa, because he's a Wawa guy. Good news, Jalen's fine. Okay, he's not hurt. He's hurts, but he's not hurt. Get it?
Let's here we go.
Yeah,
and
makes
and
sense.
he's fine. He's fine.
Why isn't he passing the ball
But
better
I
then?
went to Wawa. I went to Wawa to pick up my official Lincoln Field snow that the Eagles are selling. You get your pint of snow from the actual game, from the actual field. Okay. So I feel good about that. I got my snow in my freezer. I got my tasty cakes, some pretzels, of course. A couple Yailings on ice. I'm ready for the game. Okay, let me tell you something how this is going to go. Dom told me too that the boys look good at practice. Okay. We're looking like I agree with Jack. 27-24. Elliott comes through. Jack, you're spot on. You're spot on in your prediction. Hey, the Eagles win ugly games, that we're okay with that. We're going to take it all the way to the Super Bowl, okay? So that's what's going on in Philly.
Hey, that was the greatest take ever. That was fantastic. I don't know what half that
Well,
stuff means,
it's
but
not a
it's
take. It's
fantastic.
not a take. It's a
It's
reality.
it's
That's
Well,
facts.
this is not a
reality
take, okay?
takes
This is
facts
really
is
happening, Blake. This is happening.
fantastic. Fantastic.
Now, Blake, if I'm not mistaken, you picked the Commanders to pull off a big upset next week. Are you feeling something similar this week?
So that's Jackson. I got bad news for Uncle Mike. Are you ready for it?
Oh, I know what's going to happen.
Jackson, I'm kind of glad he's not on the call tonight. I've been a Commander loyal for almost all season. But listen, Jackson, lightning only strikes the same place twice, and it will not strike thrice. Philadelphia is angry. The reason they named the Charlotte Hornets is when the Union soldiers were coming through. They said it was like the hornet's nest of the rebellion. And that's exactly what the Washington Commanders are about to walk into in Philly. They're teed off, they're angry, and they're saying it won't happen again. It's going to be a remake of Ohio State losing at Michigan. It made them angry, and they said, "No way, Jose, not again." And so the Philadelphia Eagles will fly. Eagles fly. They're going to sing their song. And Washington had a great season, and they will punt more than one time in this game, Jackson. They will punt more than one time. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, because let me just add a few things before we get going. Okay, so Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury, they from what I've been impressed this season from their from what they for what they did this season is that they have been rolling the dice with their play calling gutsy fourth down call, and that's really what they've been doing this season. So really, what Jaden Daniels is, yeah, I mean, look, you make a great point. I do like the Eagles winning, but Jaden Daniels is definitely one of the latest rookies. They made it all the way to the NFC title game, joining the likes of Joe Flacco. So really, what he's going up against is a Vic Fangio defense who is led by the players such as Jalen Carter and Jonathan Sweat and those guys, which is going to be a long day if you're a Commanders fan. So if you're the Commanders, so really, how I see it is that Darius Slay and all those veteran defensive guys and really are going to be at their game. So to me, the so to me, Terry McClellan and Zach Ertz, who of course is a former Philadelphia Eagle, and that's going to be getting a lot of attention and booze for those Eagles crowd out in South Philly, even though they are division rivals, and I can put it that way. Yeah, the Commanders and the Eagles do not just like each other, but not as much as the Cowboys fans, like Uncle Mike said. So I want to put it that way. But to me, I still have the Eagles winning, like I said, but I have the Commanders covering. That's just how I
Right.
see this
Six
game playing
point
out.
spread for the Eagles. Yeah. So if you have the Eagles by a field goal, you have Eagles to win, Commanders to cover, which I wouldn't particularly argue with that, given the fact the Commanders have been able to keep most of their games close this year. I will say though, Jackson mentioned Jaden Daniels and rookie quarterbacks progressing this far. Rookie quarterback has never progressed to the Super Bowl though. That's a stat. If Jaden Daniels does win this
True.
game, he'll be the first ever. So, you could say that's
That's
something
that.
going against him, or you could say he's that good that he's going to create history. So, it's
Right,
up for you to decide that, I suppose. But
right, right.
I tend to agree with, I don't like it when we agree too much because obviously we saw what happened last week. A couple of us got our predictions spot on, a few others not, but I tend to like the Eagles by a field goal here as well. I think 6 point spread for Eagles is a bit much for my liking, so I'm gonna take the Commanders to cover, but I do think the Eagles will win the game by a field goal. I think as well getting that pressure on Jaden Daniels, particularly Jackson mentioned Jalen Carter, the likes of that defensive line. The thing about that the Lions weren't able to do is to put Jaden Daniels under a bit of pressure because the thing that he's done a really good job of this year, and for a rookie, fantastic job, is not really being flustered, making that 4th and 3 conversion, that 3rd and 4 conversion, third and fourth down. The Commanders have been money. I mean, they've barely punted, a handful of times so far this playoff. So getting that team and getting Jaden Daniels under a bit more pressure is going to be massive. And we did see that last week against the Rams, right? Granted, the Rams were able to do the same thing against Hurts, but the Eagles definitely got to Stafford and disrupted him a little bit. The weather obviously was part of that. I don't think it will be as crazy weather this Sunday in Philadelphia, but it's going to be cold, colder certainly. Jaden Daniels was playing indoors last week in Detroit, right? So um, it's all about disruption and using that home field advantage, right? We haven't mentioned the home crowd
Mhm.
advantage. Eagles fans are notoriously a bit, you know, they can certainly turn the wrong direction if things don't go well, but if they're able to get to the quarterback, get a big sack, get a big touchdown early, that crowd's going to make it really difficult for that Commanders team. And I feel bad for anybody wearing burgundy and yellow in that crowd on Sunday
Oh
because
man.
they're gonna
Oh
they're gonna
man.
be getting boo birds. They're gonna be getting
Goodness.
they're gonna be getting pelted all game. So fair play to the Commanders fans actually traveling up there to Philadelphia on Sunday.
Yeah, the Battle of I-95 they call it for those fans up
Right.
there at the East Coast and Northeast. But they all know what that's like, whether you're on one side or the other in this rivalry. And they
Yeah, you know what you have
and, and
coming if
trust
you do
me,
that.
my parents on both sides have lived through this, and they know what it's like on both sides. So, but yeah,
Let me
I
ask
but
you
yeah, I
guys
get. And then
this. Let me
Yep.
ask
Go,
you guys
go ahead,
this.
Blake.
What we saw happen with I believe it was the Rams playing outside and it was snow. Where was that game last week?
So that was the Eagles. Yeah, it was.
That
Yeah,
was the Ram. So we saw a team that's used to very cozy weather struggle in snow and cold, and I couldn't help but think, and Washington played in a climate controlled Detroit stadium last week, and I couldn't help but think
right.
I wonder, did it snow in DC this week?
I would imagine they got a little bit of snow. I
Okay.
think it will be not. I don't think there'll be snow covered on the field come Sunday. But to your point, I think Washington will be affected by it a little bit because obviously, like you said, they put up a large number of points last week in the indoor field. I think they'll struggle to replicate that in a cold outdoor environment in Philadelphia. At the same time, they do themselves play in an outdoor stadium and not a warm weather city as well. So I don't think it will
Right.
be a huge factor, but it will be a factor for sure. Yeah, I
I
agree.
was just
Dom,
curious,
Dom
do
told
we
me Dom told me it's going to be 36 degrees and cloudy, maybe a
no
couple
way.
flurries, but it's
It's
not
going to
going to
Not
be
at
snow.
all.
yeah. Actually, Dad, Don says it's going to be 38 degrees, 24 degrees prior to start of kickoff. So just to clear on that. And also, one other stat before we move on to our next conference championship matchup in the AFC, which also be a great, which also be should be a great matchup, is that the Commanders have improved to 4-0 all time against the Lions. So definitely a great sign for you if you're a Commanders fan, but not so much if you're going up against the Eagles. But if you're a Lions fan, you don't want to see that stat. And that's just really the pain of really the Lions is that one opponent never won a single game against the Commanders, that's just what's what's standing in their way in their last in their last game in the divisional round.
Let me ask you this, Jack. You and all the rest, you guys, a little Atlanta ties. Dan Quinn, when he was with the Falcons, was he backwards hat only, or do we have a little bit of a baseball situation where we kind of, once you get on a roll, you do certain things. Was he backwards hat only when he was with Atlanta?
No, I don't think so because I know that my brother and my dad were at that Super Bowl in Houston against the Patriots, and that was definitely a heartbreaking night for them. But if you were to ask them, I don't think so. But not during the
He was
postseason,
the
certainly
Atlanta
during a Super
coach,
Bowl
right?
run. But yes, he was.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I think he's worn the backward hats for a couple of years. I think maybe it's like, yeah, maybe it is a bit of a superstition. I guess a lot of these coaches are,
It's a rebrand.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Eagles fans aren't having it, so I'm sure they'll start chanting backwards hat
It's
at him or
gotta
something.
be. I
So
mean, I the whole game I kept looking, will he ever turn it forwards? And I'm
nah,
like,
it's
this must be
he's consistent.
superstitious.
He's consistent for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
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 So okay.
Jackson, let's talk Let's get into it. Let's talk Chiefs
Yeah.
Bills, Jack.
Let's do it.
So
We yeah.
this game is this game is
It's going to be a showdown between the last few meetings in the postseason where Patrick Mahomes has won at least three meetings in the postseason, in the regular season, where Josh Allen won the last meeting, which 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 was which was happened to be in the regular season at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, so in Buffalo. And here's my take on this game of how of why I should dislike and really can't stand Buffalo fans is that they jump on tables and do crazy stuff. Where in the opposite, Kansas City
well,
Chiefs fans don't do any of that because you got Caitlin Clark
well, don't worry.
and
Eagles
Taylor Swift
fans aren't crazy
on,
either. So
on the well I'm smart to think of it that way. But in my opinion,
Good call with the
I think
Caitlin
the
Clark
Bills
comment,
fans
Jack.
yeah, I think the Bills fans are just too much. They like jump on tables, do a bunch of crazy stuff, and the Chiefs are the opposite because what they do is you have to take the strokes off, but not like they take their strokes off, but not like what Bills fans do because the Chiefs what they do in their opposite is that they have
it's not the
Taylor Swift
analysis I
come to
was
every
expecting.
game with Kevin Clark and of course barbecue and the Chiefs love story movie, and there's really lots to like about the Kansas City Chiefs, and plus they are going to be also on quest to free-peat the first ever NFL team to free-peat as Super Bowl champions. And how do I see this play out? Well, it's going to be a very close game. The way I look at it, I'm looking at the
What's your prediction, Jack?
I'm looking at the
I've heard a lot about love stories. I've heard a lot
and
about
it's
jumping on tables, but let's get down to
AJ
yeah,
brass tacks
well,
here, man. Come on.
yeah, well, look, I'm getting back to the game for a second. So it's going to really shock you a bit because I'm not liking what I'm seeing. But the Bills are 5.4.6 predictor to win the game. That's not right. I still like the Chiefs to cover and win this game. The Chiefs are the tough team to beat, and they're the champions. And you got Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Kamara Hunt, Travis Kelsey. I mean, look, in their last game against Houston, it was really they played their best game, and against the Texans last week, where Texans just made too many mistakes by missing a lot of field goals and just had too many turnovers, which really cost the game by TJ Stroud, which it was really on him, and that cost him. And then with the Bills game, and then with the Bills game last week, last week, last week against the Ravens, where really where really where really the fourth down play really cost the Ravens because they weren't supposed to tie it in a 2-point conversion. They didn't get it, and that really cost their season. It cost the game,
Yeah, it could have gone
and
either
all of
way,
a sudden
really,
the
that
Bills are
game,
moving
right? So,
on, and now we're set up for a showdown between Mahomes and Josh Allen yet again. And the way I
so
see it
you've got the
playing
Chiefs,
out,
Jack?
yeah, I got the Chiefs winning this game for 35-20
Oh,
in
well,
my for
it's a pretty
my
big margin.
for my
Jackson,
Ricker.
Jackson, not so fast. Jackson,
What?
not
He just pulled a
so
Corso.
fast.
Oh, what?
Not
What?
so fast. Jackson, last week, there's a guy you may have heard of him by the name of Josh Allen. And
I just said
he
it.
shocked and he shocked the world and showed Lamar Jackson and arguably one of the best running backs in the NFL what David Gerke used to say you can't teach hard, Jackson. You can't teach hard. Not to say Lamar doesn't have it, not to say Derrick Henry doesn't have it, but Josh Allen has an enlarged heart. And Jackson, he's not only gonna beat the reigning Super Bowl champions, it's gonna be a blowout. You heard it here first. Crazy upset call of the week. The Buffalo Bills not only beat the Kansas City Chiefs, they beat them by 2 touchdowns. Call me crazy. Call
Wow.
me crazy.
Wow,
The
wow,
I like
Buffalo
wow.
the
Well,
Bills
that's
are
bold. I like
they
it. Let me
want it.
piggyback. Let me piggyback on that. So I'm going with the Bills too. I'm not as bold as you. I think they'll squeak it out, last second field goal. Maybe it's even in overtime. But I do like the Bills. Um, I think it's their time. I think
Mhm.
they've waited, they've gotten close. The Chiefs are a great team. Andy Reid is brilliant. Mahomes is great. They'll be back next year. They're not going away,
Mhm.
but they're not going this year.
Mhm.
Nobody wants to see two maroon and yellow teams with the Commanders and the Chiefs. Can you imagine that? That's just too much maroon for me. I can't take that. So
Mm.
we need green and blue in the Super Bowl, two warm colors. That would be fun. That would be nice. Um, Interesting. Jared Allen's got a Hollywood girlfriend too. That's interesting.
Josh, you mean,
Maybe
right?
it sorry, Josh Allen's girlfriend is Haley Seinfeld Blake,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, actress, yeah.
I think they're engaged even, actress.
Correct, yeah.
So maybe it's Haley over Taylor
Maybe it's a bit
too
of
this
you've been
weekend.
Mhm.
pushing the cutaways to the box in our face for a while, but a bit of taste of your own medicine, yeah.
Maybe wouldn't that be ironic?
Although if we saw
S-
last week Taylor Swift was in the box with Caitlin Clark, it's hard to compete with that, you
Right.
know.
That's what I was saying. Like the two
Did
celebrity
you factor that into
actress
your
sporting
analysis?
legends of all times. Yeah.
yeah, she's got me there, but I still like Bills Eagles Super Bowl will be a heck of a lot of fun. Um, and Jack, the Chiefs will be back, and they're not going anywhere.
Oh
But
no.
I I think it's going to be a tight game. What do you think, Blake Gerke?
Yeah, so we got two Bills and one Chiefs, but I was not expecting to be the deciding vote here in terms of whether or not we're split, but I gotta roll with the house here, and I gotta pick with Jackson on the Chiefs here. I've just I feel like until I see the Chiefs lose a big playoff game, I
It's
can't
good.
go against them. And they're at home. They've got the crowd with them. They've got a lot of things going for them. And obviously, Buffalo had a harder matchup last weekend. But at the same time, though, are we saying it's a good sign that they just got past Baltimore? But in my opinion, Baltimore probably should have won that game. So are we saying that's a positive, or are we saying Buffalo is perhaps fortunate to be in this position this Sunday? Obviously, I'm not saying they're not deserving of being in the AFC title game. They're a hell of a ball club, and they've earned their spot here. But um, I probably would have weirdly felt better about Baltimore playing in this game. I feel like Kansas City has just had Buffalo's number in the playoffs for a good while now. So until they're able to get over that hump, Buffalo being Buffalo beating Kansas City, I just have a hard time picking against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs here. It's like I can't bet against the house, as they say, right? So I
Yeah.
have to go with the Chiefs, and the line is I think 2, so I'm picking the Chiefs to win and Chiefs to cover as well. I'm sorry, lads, but I just can't go against Mahomes. So I
Look,
think
Yeah,
we
yeah,
get it.
yeah, 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 yeah. I agree with you too, Blake. That's why you can't bet against Patrick Mahomes, and he is about to accomplish and do the unpredictable, and the
Jackson, what's
and
the
and
spread?
about to be accomplished
KC by 2.
the
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, right. So he's a yeah.
Oh,
So what
so
I'm
the Bills
saying,
are favored then. That's interesting.
No, 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 no. KC's favored by 2. Yeah.
Yeah, but you get 3 for home field, don't you?
Um, I
That's
sup
factored in.
I suppose, yeah, I suppose,
Oh,
yeah. So basically, if you think Buffalo's going to win, then yeah, then
neutral
take the points
site.
there, yeah,
Neutral
for sure.
site. Buffalo is
Not
favored.
not as
Okay.
big as you would think. Yeah, no, that's
Oh,
fair. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, yeah. Look, you can never count out or bet against Patrick Mahomes because he is about to accomplish and witness the first ever quarterback to repeat as Super Bowl champions, and about to be the new Tom Brady and the new greatest coach of all time, if not in football, in all of sports history. It's
We'll
going to
see. We'll
happen.
see.
I'm going to, I'm, it's about to happen. I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it whenever it does happen. But the Chiefs, they can't be stopped, and I think Patrick Holmes is on quest to be the first NFL quarterback to do it and accomplish it ever. So that'll be something I will keep my eye on. And Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be the first quarterback, and he's going to do it.
I will say this, Jackson, to your point. Uh, Jaden Daniels and Patrick Mahomes have the most in common right now in the sense they're both, I don't think they have any nerves. Patrick Mahomes won 2 Super Bowls, no pressure, no nerves. Who cares? So what? Going out there playing calm and loose. Jaden Daniels shouldn't be in this moment, playing calm, house money. Who so what? Who cares? I think Josh Allen is going to have his nerves. If he's going to have to figure out a way to, because he wants it so bad, like Tim Tebow, and they used to have to wear him out before the game because he was so amped up. I'm worried. That's the only thing that worries me is I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to be near as nervous as Josh Allen. It's the only thing that makes me scared.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
And yeah, yeah. Sorry. You want me to jump in here before you have something to say, Blake? Because no. You want to go ahead, or do you want me to jump in here?
yeah, no,
Okay.
go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So one other point I'd like to make is on that game last week for the Bills at home. The one I point out of is that Mark Andrews that dropped 2 point conversion in the gotta have it game and just it was really cost him and it was on him and if they would a play they would love to have back and really if he were to make that play then who knows maybe the Ravens would be in a whole different conversation in overtime or maybe moving on with the Chiefs but at the end of the day the Bills are 9-0 at home and they are tough to beat at home for a reason and how great team they are now their next test is going to be at the one of the loudest and crowd environments at Arrowhead Stadium. It'll be packed, and everybody doing this tomahawk chop like they do at Braves games. It'll be just like that and that kind of feel in a football game and stadium out there. And it's going to be quite the atmosphere and electric and sellout crowds. Going to be very excited, and it should be a great game.
Well, it's going to be a great game. You're right, Jack, and I just want to send congratulations to Patrick and Brittany for their new addition. They just had a baby, Golden, and I do know something about babies. They keep you up at night,
Ooh, that's
and look for that to
interesting.
be a factor in this game. Diaper
Interesting.
changing, some feeding,
Sicknesses.
some late night. Yeah, late night with babies, not easy. Could be a lack of sleep, and that could
Hmm.
affect Patrick's games. Just saying. But congratulations to the Mahomes for sure.
Yeah, all kinds of external factors can go into a big matchup like this, that's for sure. So, yeah, it sounds like we're pretty split on a lot of these matchups here. So, um, but nonetheless, we have two really interesting football games to look forward to this Sunday for sure. So, I just wanted to thank Jackson, Blake Limberger, and David Gerke for joining us, and myself, Blake Gerke, the host, on another great episode of Good Guys Sports. We've winding down here on the football season, and we're happy to break down some of these great matchups and look forward to as well some of the exciting sports coming up this spring. So I want to thank everyone for joining us and listening to another episode of Good Guys Sports. Jackson, Blake, David, thanks, and have a great rest of your weekend, everyone.
Hey, real quick before we go, I just want to shout out to the Eagles Foundation hat, who was first started by Jeffrey Worry, and want to just thank them for thank them for giving me this hat and how they were very special to me as a gift, and how the players love me, and how a great team they are, and who knows, maybe I'll be invited by their Autism Awareness Foundation that's owned by which was founded by Jeffrey Worry, and who knows, but you never know. But hope that I get invited to one of their autism awareness practices by being one of the players and more players. It should be very exciting. Who knows? Just want to shout out and share with them. Hope I share with them all the best. And
Yeah,
yeah, let's hope for the Eagles to win this Sunday.
absolutely. A great cause, and shout out
All
to the
right.
Eagles Autism Foundation. Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you guys.
Cheers.